I've got my San Antonio cup of coffee. Welcome to the Backyard Professor Responds video. Clif High on December 3rd, UFO Invasion Day, gave a recording that has been posted by a website that I want to respond to. He is saying the invasion is successful and it is occurring right now, and it is ongoing. And we're in for a wild and bumpy ride, and I want to respond to just that. I want to respond to his evidence. I want to respond to his analysis. I want to respond to everything he's saying, because this is so intriguing that I've read the evidence in a vastly different way than the way Clif has read the evidence and interpreting the evidence. So this is such an intriguing topic. On the drones, the UFOs in the UK, I would just like to acknowledge real quick another brand new video by Richard Dolan. I think it's just a couple days ago, right here, where he is describing his impression of the drones. I will have this video link in my description as well. I just want to show you drones, UFOs, what's flying over the UK bases. And this is so intriguing because he's well known as a valid UFO researcher and historian for the last several decades. I like Dolan because he keeps me grounded. I thoroughly enjoyed his book. I would encourage you to read his book. This video is very good because he's being so cautious. He is not jumping to any quick conclusions at all. And he also indicates that he is not overly impressed with what videos and photos he has seen so far of these so-called UFOs or so-called drones. He doesn't come to any hard, fast conclusions. So that's a valid way to approach this interesting topic. Let's get on with Clif High and his analysis.
Anyway, so December 3rd, we're into the period of time that's going to lead us up into the melee. We've got plenty of existing real-world examples of those forces in operation now, because we've got, all the fighting and scrapping and shit here in the U.S.
Now, this is interesting because now I've written down some of my notes because I want to get my nuance across correctly. So I am going to read some of my notes as well as respond just off the top of my head. It's very interesting that we've always had fightings and scrappings in the United States anyway. So is he attempting to make it seem more relevant? I honestly don't know. But to say that this is evidence of his prediction, I don't know. I'm not sure what he's referring to anyway. He's pretty vague here.
And everybody's always, there's minute by minute activity between the that don't understand that and the awake people and the manga people, the normies that are sort of starting to wake up a bit, right? And so there's all kinds of fighting and problems and irritations with them. And then we've also got the Mother Weffers, the Elohim worship cult in Europe, trying to stage a color revolution in Georgia.
Here, it just appears to me like he's trying to make it appear more chaotic than it really is. I mean, we've always had different ideological groups with their particular interpretations of politics or the economy or the history of the nation or the history of the world, etc. So I think he's trying to make it appear more chaotic than it is in order to be able to better and stronger, smoothly transition into the melee time of his program's prediction of what was going to happen. Really kind of interesting, but not really.
Anyway, So all kinds of stuff going on today. We've got the color revolution there in Georgia. We've got South Korea this morning declared martial law. They've got the same problems as the duly elected representatives, government in Georgia, the Republic of Georgia, not the state of. Yeah, the Republic, Eastern Europe, Anyway, so the mother weffers are trying to do a color revolution there, and they're trying to do the color revolution in South Korea. And so the color revolution is basically the NGOs get a bunch of people agitated and turn them against the government for not doing what they want that government to do. Right. So the WEF wants the Republic of Georgia to join NATO. So they're having a color revolution because the governments, we don't want anything to do with those assholes. Anyway, sort of the same conditions exist in South Korea at the moment. We've got the mother weffers agitating a base level of the South Korean population to go against government policy. They're not like really against the government. They just don't want the government to do specific things. Anyway, so we're really shaping up to melee, and we've got our space alien invasion. So just over these last couple of days, we've had mass sightings and mass videos come out of Portugal of 3 or 4 separate incidences where we've had UFOs over soccer games. There was a bunch of UFOs that were doing a sort of like a maneuver. I mean, it was like an organized maneuver kind of thing, and they were doing it over Lisbon, and they were photographed. We've had orbs over the UK. We've had tons of drones in the UK. And now these are really interesting drones.
I saw in a comment on this video, someone said drones or orbs over Portugal. No, there's nothing going on here. And now Portugal's a big spot to watch all over the sky. I get that. But notice how he is conflating the drones with orbs. Now, Richard Dolan, in his video, is really iffy about doing it this way. He's really iffy about calling them UFOs. And he does a historical back look on some various incidents of the UFOs, etc. But he's not outright saying they're orbs and UFOs. We just don't have enough good evidence yet, according to Dolan. And so, and Clif is trying to show how various parts of the world, all kinds of activities is going on, but it's basically over the UK and basically over some cities in the United States of America, right? And granted, we don't have the whole world covered in reporting and so on and so forth. So to me, this looks a little bit spotty, even though there seems to be a lot of activity. Dolan in his book says, truly, without exaggeration, 90% of all evidence ever seen, discussed, videoed, or photographed is just a common something that we see every day. It's not a UFO. So that leaves 10%. So Clif appears to me to be trying to make this much more overall worldwide encompassing, but he's only covering just a few spots at most for an invasion of UFOs that is supposed to lead, and he will say this, to UFOs fighting UFOs and UFOs fighting jets, etc. So I don't know. I don't think that's all that impressive. The activity is fun. It's interesting, but not all of it has to be attributed to UFOs. And it probably realistically can't be.
So I got to get into that for a minute, but we've also had UFOs over Texas this morning being reported by commercial and military pilots. and they are the UFOs are doing maneuvers over Texas, right? They're coming together, they're doing specific things. It almost looks like a training exercise, kind of a deal, right? Anyway, over the UK, and I guess it's now over the same over some places, some military bases in the US, there are these drones. And when we say drones now, we're not talking like the drones you'd get off of Amazon or something, right? We're talking about things that they're saying are described as bigger than SUVs, all right? They have multiple lights. They've got no apparent propulsion system. It's not like they've got the little propellers on them and all of that kind of shit. No apparent propulsion. And they've been up in the air for 5 days over some of these bases in England. Okay, and so there's no drone we have, even with solar panels built into it, that can stay aloft for 5 days. Obviously, as soon as the sun goes down, they're going to start tapping into battery power. They'll be exhausted before the end of that first night, and will have landed. So some shit's going on there, and it's very likely alien drones or breakaway civilization drones. Okay.
So, and this is probably showing my beginnerhood in this entire subject. But alien drones, aliens have drones. It appears to me that he is trying too hard to make the drones into alien craft. Now, we do know the military does have some big drones. And so if this observation is correct, that they've been up there for 5 days and all, well, that would need an explanation. That's true. But just to automatically say, oh, alien, I'm not so sure about that yet, without a whole lot more investigation from a lot of serious experts. I'm not one of those, so I can't say yes or no. This just seems to be stretching, in my opinion. I'm just not convinced.
I actually think it's more probable than if it is acting in its own interest legitimately, it's more probable it's aliens. It may be the breakaway civilization doing a maneuver for a psyop.
It may be a lot of things. He's giving me the impression that he's just fishing. Yeah, let's keep going.
At this point, we can't determine, but they're there, and because we don't want them falling on civilians, which is pretty logical, really. You don't want a bunch of SUV-sized drones, and who knows how much they weigh, falling out of the sky on civilian houses and shit, right? But so there is all of the action. There is now all of the actions that we can characterize as an invasion. So I'm quite comfortable in saying, okay, we've met the conditions for the invasion.
I'm genuinely puzzled at this, but he does clarify a little later in the video. But we have all of the actions for an invasion. Maybe not. I don't know. Only if we have alien drones, I suppose. But if 90% of all of this stuff being seen is not alien, which is basically the proper percentage of all evidence so far presented since 1947 or before, then this appears to me to be pretty thin stuff. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, no one's taken any of these drones down. Now, I watched a couple of news programs at my lunch hour, and the military, they're keeping it quiet. All they're saying is, well, we're monitoring this. Nobody's taking any action at all anywhere against drones that appear to have impunity now. Anybody can go fly a drone anywhere they want. They are completely in the dark. That's the impression they're leaving. But we're monitoring the things that are monitoring us. I mean, if those drones have cameras and they're monitoring and they're learning when the gates open and when the gates closed, etc., then it's a very, very weak response by the military and the government, right? So this just doesn't give me something I can sink my teeth into here, Cliff. So far, not very good.
And we're starting to get the setup for the melee, where everybody's fighting everybody and, the chaos everywhere kind of thing, right? And that will include the space aliens and the breakaway civilization, as well as a bunch of us guys settling all of our shit down here. It's going to be a fun damn December, let me tell you. It's already started off really great.
Well, the melee is apparently a lot of battles in the skies. But where? We only have a few drones over the UK. We have a few drones over a couple of cities, a few cities in the United States. This is an invasion? I'm having trouble here following his logic here. This is not what you visualize in any manner when he says it's an invasion. I mean, an invasion is D-Day in World War II. We're talking millions coming in all over the place and rooting out the enemy. That's what we visualize as an invasion. What Cliff appears to be pointing out is a little bit over here, and then way over here, thousands of miles away, there's a little bit more over there, etc. I'm sorry, this just does not convince me at this stage. Let's keep going, and we'll see if he can improve this idea of an invasion. It just doesn't make sense to me.
So I'm expecting that the data will play out as we had, originally thought in that first interpretation when I was sitting there with Igor and we were having some coffee and looking at this goofy shit, with the melee stuff coming after or during the process of an invasion. Now, it's not, people are misunderstanding, okay? But from our viewpoint down here, that's what it looks like. What it's really is, and we can't tell the difference from down here, is alien reproduction vehicles built and owned by corporations, which we call the Breakaway civilization. Those guys fighting against aliens, okay? It's not in the interest of the Breakaway civilization to allow alien contact with the general population.
So he's saying the big corporations are making UFOs in order to compete. And when the UFOs show up, the breakaway civilization, the big corporations who has this technology, is going to go fight the aliens up in the sky. And this is going to be the melee. This is going to be the battle after the invasion that really, honestly, just does not look like an invasion to me at all. It just doesn't. They're just, I don't get it. So, and they don't want this breakaway civilization with their own now retrofitted UFO material, all their crafts. They are the ones going to be fighting the UFOs because they don't want the UFOs to disclose themselves to us. And that's why all the secrecy. Okay. It's an interesting theory, but you notice it's him guessing. He didn't get that from the data. He's creating a story, it appears to me.
It totally defeats their driving vision. All right. And so they will not want this to occur. And so I suspect that they will be agent provocateurs and attempt to cause disruption in basic warfare, active kinetic confrontation and contention between the aliens and the humans. So we'll see how that plays out. Just bear in mind, does not mean that it's two different groups of aliens shooting at each other, right? Anyway, so this could be really interesting. The melee stuff, I expect that that they'll get things together in South Korea and lock it all down after a very violent period of time. I suspect that the burbling color revolution in Georgia is going to fail. And it's going to fail very miserably for the Elohim worship cult, and some of the WEF will be caught. Okay, so so we have data showing that some of the mother WEFers are going to have to be ransomed from being captured. So they'll be where they should not be, attempting to direct actions that they supposedly have no hand in, and they will be captured. And then the other mother WEFers will have to negotiate all kinds of concessions to get this back, right? And so it's going to be really interesting that way. I suspect that occurs in the middle of the melee, and we probably won't really hear about it until later. So there's going to be a lot of this melee shit that goes on, and it'll take us maybe months to learn about all of the details of what's happening. I suspect that this will be more towards January 15th through February 15th, or January 15th through March 15th, in that kind of a time frame.
So it's going to happen, this melee, this fighting, all of this wartime shenanigans that happen in every war. He's being so vague. He's not naming names of countries at all, hardly. People are going to be hostage, and then they're going to have to negotiate. He has to make something, but that happens in every war. I'm trying realistically to give him as much benefit of the doubt as I can. This is too vague. Now, he did say something interesting. This melee could happen all the way through March. So apparently in the first quarter of 2025, we're going to have more and more difficulties in the world, and he won't name specific countries at all. He's just calling them names. You know, he has no real sticking details that carry conviction. So far, this stuff is pretty vague.
Than in these early days of it, but in the early days of the of contact, and that's what this is. Okay, so a lot of people are saying invasion, and I use that word too, just because it's fun and it gets everybody whipped up. But what?
Just wait a minute. You mean to tell me that Clif's using the word invasion because it's fun and that it gets everybody whipped up, but the real idea is just contact? Are you frickin' kidding me? You're playing word games here? He just gave the game away, you guys. Did you catch that? Now I'm skeptical. Now, Clif High has a problem with credibility, in my opinion. And it gets worse. I've got later clips that I will share with you. He really gives the game away. Don't you use the word invasion with its meaning when what you meant was contact. Because invasion does not give you the same mental picture as contact. And when you use the word invasion, and UFOs are fighting UFOs, and UFOs are fighting jets, that's war. That's war. That's blood, guts, and death. That's bad. That's invasion. Contact is ET. Oh. Contact is simply not in the same league mentally or linguistically as invasion. Now, did the data say invasion or did it say contact? If it said contact and he's misusing this word invasion for clickbait, stop your stupid word games. We get enough of that from our own government. We don't need you to start pulling the same stupid shit on us to convince us the data shows that we're in trouble. When in fact, contact does not have to be a negative. Invasion is entirely negative. Now I'm suspicious. Now my hackles are up just a little bit. Don't you dink around with us and your stupid linguistics using wrong words in order to get people riled up and get them to look at the data. And unfortunately, I'm not done yet. It gets worse. Now I am paying attention very, very carefully.
What really is happening here is this is official contact. Okay, these visitors, these beings from otherwhere, people from another planet, kind of thing, want to have a discourse. They have needs that they must express to us about our bad behavior affecting them, and they would like us to address this bad behavior. And
I'm getting the impression that Clif knows the intentions of the aliens. How? How does he know that's what they're intending? Based on what evidence? Now, it's not a bad idea. I'm not against the overarching theme, because we humans can do some pretty stupid stuff, like make enough nuclear weapons to destroy the Earth, right? That's just silly. But how does he know how can a computer program know what the intentions are of an alien race from outer space? I would really like to see how that works. Sincerely. I'm just saying.
Other stuff, right? They'd like to get to know us because we're kind of cool and creative and fun and all of that kind of stuff, right?
Wait. They want to get to know us because we chuck and jive, we're cool, we're kind of the, hey man, we're the happening people on this planet. Come get to know us. Hey, come on. What is this? They want to get to know us because we're cool. Did his data actually tell him that? Or is this just him throwing smoke in the wind? Please have something better for us, Clif. No.
Unpredictable. We're actually quite unique. As a pointed, focused aspect of the ontology, humans have a certain cachet. We're cool. So these guys want to come and talk to us. We're the cool kids on the block. We just don't know it yet.
Holy cow. So we're cool, and the aliens want to get to know us. Oh, they sure have a stupid way of doing that now, don't they? It's 2024. Need I remind you that the aliens have been around here since way before 1900? Why didn't they start getting to know how cool we are back then? How come they haven't come and shown themselves to all of the nations already? Because we are so cool. Like, what is this? Really? All right, patience, calm. All right, let's keep going. Boy.
That, I think, is, like I say, that aspect of it, the contact aspect of it will be happening here in December and all through this melee period. So if we look at the data.
Okay, so we're talking the melee period is going to be for several months. This is his most recent commentary on what the data means, and so I will go with this. Okay, so we're talking a stretch of time here. Okay, all right. Let's see where he's taking this.
As it laid out in 2009, and then we had a big tranche of the stuff come in 2012, 13, and 14. So over a course of 2 years there, this data set really grew. It stabilized a whole lot in 2015, as though it was like like Universe had said, oh, okay, that's all you really need to know now. And it was pretty stable and held there until we get into the Trump interview period, right? Anyway, so.
Okay, now this is important because I've actually had folks comment to me and all that he never mentions Trump in this. There you go. Yeah. The key is the Trump interview period. It began with the Trump interview with Joe Rogan. That's Clif's status. He didn't mention Joe Rogan here. He's mentioned it in other videos, but he absolutely does mention Donald Trump here. His interpretation says we are in the Trump interview era right now. The 39 days from that interview have arrived, and we're in the 40th day right now on December 4th, depending on where you start your calculation at. I know I've had some people saying, no, it's supposed to be the December 4th. It depends. He said December 3rd in some videos, so who knows?
What I'm suspecting is going to happen here is that the data said that there would be contact, and then in a sense, round contact, swirling around contact would be the melee, all right, would be the quote invasion, which is how that's going to be characterized by mainstream media and these kind of fuckers, and the fighting with the alien reproduction vehicles leading into this period of melee.
From my take on it, the only reason social media is talking about invasion is because he used the word. He doesn't know what people are going to call this. Has everybody out there, everybody started calling all these drones an invasion of UFOs? No one that I'm aware of. I did for my videos because I'm following his chosen word that may not actually be real. If it's contact, that is entirely different. So this is really interesting. Invasion and melee now are all wrapped up into one and stretched over several months. It's not invasion, fight, and then melee. It's all just sort of blobbed together here now so that he can stretch it over a few months. And my impression, based on what you're about to hear, is that he's trying to fit the world data into his creation of what it means in order to make it look valid. If that's what whets your appetite, yeah, okay.
The data was basically saying all throughout these months, from some point, there's going to be contact. So while all of this shit's going on, we can expect that these space aliens are going to have provable, not just someone saying, oh, they came down and talked to me. No, bullshit, dude. A video that, has no AI component required, receipts required, because there will be contact. They're not going to go through officialdom. All right. So I think that decision has already been made, that our officialdom is just too fucked up to deal with. And so contact is going to come out in a different fashion.
December 3rd was the invasion, 39 days after the interview. And December 3rd, it was going to happen. Here comes the invasion. And now you've admitted that actually, I just used that word because it was going to rile everybody up. And you got that right. It riled up hundreds of thousands of us. Right? But now you're saying, oh, well, What it really is contact. Wait till you hear how he describes contact here in a few minutes. Yeah, you'll see. So, and now in a few more months, it's going to be contact again, but this time not with officialdom. In other words, the governments. The UFOs aren't going to contact the governments. They're going to contact the people, and not just some Joe out there in a farmer's field saying, yo, hey, I got visited by a UFO. He's leaving the impression again that lots of people, I shouldn't say everybody, hold on, I'll calm down here. His impression he's leaving is not just anybody, but you've got to have the receipt. So there's going to be groups of people so that there are huge amounts of witnesses when the aliens do show up and contact and begin to talk with us and help us get rid of our bad behavior, as he was talking about earlier. That's my impression I'm getting, right? I mean, isn't it obvious that the aliens aren't going to contact the government? Why would they? I mean, if they can communicate telepathically, and there are several witnesses that say that's how a lot of these things do communicate with us, if they're going to communicate that way, they already know the government is not the people they want to be in communication with, right? So in some respects, his interpretation, his fantasy that he appears to be building up actually makes sense. You know, I'll give credit where credit's due. There's not too much of it yet, but let's keep going.
I suspect from the things I'd seen in the data that I have some understanding of what may occur, and we can get into that
Oh, yeah, hold on. Now he's just blubbering. He's starting to brag about how much he knows. I'm not impressed with what he claims he knows right now, so I've got to bring it up to here.
In the space alien invasion, right? Now, invasion word aside, so I'm not trying to create the connotation of space alien paratroopers falling out of the sky, right? Nor thousands of little UFOs attacking us. So nothing at all like Independence Day. Okay, so it's not like that.
All right, then. Why in the hell use the word that leaves that exact impression in all of our minds? Now you're changing the tune entirely. Oh, well, that's not what I meant. Then don't use the goddamn word to deceive people. You knew full well that's how we would take it. That's what you counted on. You wanted to rile the people up, as opposed to gentle contact. Yeah, you know, I'm giving you an F on this. I hate to come across as being self-righteous. I really do. But this is bullshit. You get to pick the words when the data doesn't indicate that, so that you can get people's attention, so that they can imagine they're seeing that your program actually does accurately predict the future, and 90% of this is guesswork, and you're using phony words in order to make it into a story about UFOs. I am not buying this, Jack. Sorry. I'm sorry. I know I'm coming across as self-righteous. I apologize. That is not my intention. I'm just a little bit hot under the collar right now. I'll stop right there. Let's keep going, because it really does get worse.
I'm using the invasion word because that's going to be every fucking place over these next 30 days in social media.
Exactly. You're using it for the effect. You're not using it because that's what your stupid, phony data said. That's what pisses me off. Let's keep going. He's admitted he's making this shit up. And then he's going to gather all the information that makes it look real. That's what we're seeing here, folks.
But really, it's contact. Okay, it's a very gentle contact. It's contact with people, us guys, who have been very abusive to them and have caused them all kinds of problems, and have been really stupid about shit. And so under those circumstances, contact has to be handled in a particular way and can cause real problems. So I think we're being treated with a very delicate and gentle touch, and I'm sure hoping that government doesn't go on and continue to fuck things up.
No, government doesn't have to do that. You have. You just described why contact is not invasion. Thank you for telling us how you're deceiving us. Very good. Because invasion is D-Day. That's war. Contact is gentle, just like you said. It's gentle. It's not aggressive. UFOs fighting UFOs and UFOs fighting jets. That's what happens in an invasion. You get the alarm bells. Invasion! Get all the F-22s and F-15s in the air. We've got enemies coming in, etc. That's the impression you admit you wanted to give when your data didn't. I'm not impressed. I'm just not. You start saying what you mean and meaning what you say. No more word games. No more word games. Not acceptable. Clif High, your word games are not acceptable, mister. Unfortunately, there is more.
So the data suggested that there were governments on the planet that didn't buy into the mother weffers approach of, there are governments. I'm not going to name them, but you'll see them. They'll be publicly, they'll be doing things in a public fashion that will bring them to your attention if you follow social media as we go through this month leading into the melee period. Those governments will be successfully contacted. Those governments will not, in my opinion, include the 5, Western liberal republics, English-speaking guys. So it won't be the UK. It's not going to be the US or Canada, New Zealand, or Australia. If they're not initially, there will be attempts by the breakaway civilization to cause these issues. So the breakaway civilization may come and attack U.S. military bases in their UFOs in order to make us think that the UFO invasion is undergoing, and we're being fiercely attacked by Draco reptilians or some damn shit.
This, come on. So you're not going to name the governments. Did your data? Then how do you know which governments is going to do what? How on earth can you possibly know? You're guessing, you're giving your opinion. Well, this may happen. This might happen. Well, it's probable that this might happen or whatever, but you're not going to name any names. You're not going to get very specific. You're just giving us tripe here and there. Oh, well, hey, look over here. That could happen here. Is this actually supposed to help us? This kind of speculation where you don't name names, you don't name dates hardly, except for the initial invasion that's phony, because it's not an invasion. I mean, holy cow. We deserve better than this. We really do.
So, which, the whole reptilian thing, it's a fantasy. It's not real. Anyway, so.
Yeah. kind of like your whole invasion thing is a fantasy. It's not real. Is your interpretation any better? You haven't given me any facts hardly at all tonight. What you've done is you've given me your opinion. You're guessing this, you're guessing, well, maybe this group here. Well, maybe that group there. Well, in a war, they might do this, they might do that. People are going to be taken hostage. They're going to have to be negotiated for. That happens in every war there ever has been. I'm not going to name the governments. No, I can't get into specifics. Someday I'll tell you. This is useless.
So that'll be occurring over these next 30 or so days. We'll get into melee where this shit will pop out.
Well, now that we know you meant contact instead of invasion, and you're saying, well, all this shit's going to pop out. Shit pops out all the time. It depends on how you interpret it. It's not like the earth is in the millennium of peace and then all of a sudden shit pops out because of something. There's constantly been arguing and fighting and different groups and different nations and different states arguing about things and passing laws and all this stuff. Give me something I can sink my teeth into. Oh my gosh. And the corporations that's going to be fighting the UFOs, and they will gently appear to the people and not invade Earth. Are these what the data say, or are you guessing wildly, having fun, making shit up as you go along? That's the real question I have for you.
Then that melee period will continue for some period of time. There will be a period of unknowing. During that period of unknowing, there's also all this unknowing about all the financial shit. So I'm expecting, major banks to fail real soon. And I'm also expecting officialdom to have to do things relative to the economy, like freezing price controls, that sort of thing. I don't think they'll do that, but I mean, some, officialdom kind of an action that they try and spread across the whole economy to try and keep things stable during this period of time.
So the data doesn't give us anything. So I'm expecting this, I'm expecting that. I think this, I think that. I'm expecting this. Well, maybe not that way, but the data is too vague. It leaves it out, etc. What is this noise? Really?
And at some point, but it'll probably be after the Trump return, and so it'll probably actually be after mid-February. I suspect that we'll start seeing economic moves announced and so forth with and proffered with the explanation that these are being taken, these measures are being taken in order to deal with the space alien invasion. So officialdom sometime after February should be referencing our unfolding reality in much more clear and also much more factual terms.
God, I hope so, because you're not being clear at all. Listen, seriously, so in February, what you're telling us is, in February, something's going to happen economically. Really? Boy, that's profound. I am so sorry to be sarcastic. This is technically not my style, but you have got to be kidding me, man. There's something going to economically happen in February. Mind you, nothing will in January, but it will in February. Something economically has been happening all over the world since the creation of the First Nation state. Were you not aware of that? Again, I apologize for the sarcasm, but damn, man, this is so vaguely moronic as a basis of evidence. Wow. What you're doing is safe, vague guessing. This is what I'm seeing and hearing tonight. That's what you've presented to me. Now, your computer, sifting through trillions of bits of data, can't even give us anything. And so you're just simply trying to fill it in, is the impression I'm getting here. And it's also vague that you can make this apply to anything and anywhere. I'm sorry, this just does not convince me, man. And, there's nothing specific. Just say something economically. Something economically is going to happen. Really? I would have never guessed that. I'm going to predict something profound. Tomorrow, something economically in the world's going to happen. Yes, you're welcome.
They'll call it invasion. It won't be that.
They'll call it an invasion. It won't be that. Then why did you call it that when you knew it wasn't that? It's a complete waste of my time. Now, the reason I made this response video is because for my audience, this is how to examine what people are saying constitutes evidence of something that's going to happen with the UFOs. This is how to think through evidence, because we have been given no evidence in this entire discussion. What we've seen is a lot of total guesswork, speculation, vague generalities that can apply to thousands of other contexts without ever skipping a beat, which means this doesn't help. It just doesn't. So thanks for watching my Backyard Professor Responds videos. I will be back with a lot more tomorrow night. Well, I had something really positive to to present tonight until I ran across this, and I thought, this needs to be responded to. So thanks for watching my Backyard Professor Responds videos. I will be back with a lot more. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all your support and your love and your friendship. We're working through all of the good, the bad, and the ugly together. And quite frankly, this is all intriguing, and it's really quite fun to do. Even though sometimes, I admit, I confess, I can get exasperated, and sometimes I can nip out and bite a little bit and all that. I don't mean to be offensive, but sometimes you gotta kick ass to get some people's attentions and get them to quit faking it. Thanks for watching.